when we're talking about feminism, have the conversations. Okay, you, Mr. Man, what is the thing that is aggravating you? Why don't you want me to succeed as a woman? Why don't you want me as your wife to do A, B, C, D? Annabelle, a lot of men go through a lot of things that unfortunately our society does not allow them to talk about it. And so they grow into that mindset of believing that a woman should be in the kitchen, a woman should be there. But if you don't have those conversations before you even get married, which is a mistake a lot of girls make. Thank God the title of this show is The Conversation, and it just lets you know that the conversation always has to take place. You have to have the conversation. What kind of man are you? What kind of upbringing did you have?
But then some people will come back to tell you that talk is cheap. We talked about it before we got married, and then when we got married, I don't know what happened. He changed.
You see the signs. They didn't talk about it.
All right, let's start this conversation taking our quote like we always do. And our first one is coming from Sheryl Sandberg. She once said, "In the future, there will be no female leaders. There will be just leaders." I agree with that one. Our next quote is coming from G.D. Anderson, feminist and activist, who once said, "Feminism isn't about making women stronger. Women are already strong. It's about changing the way the world perceives that strength." I agree, absolutely. And not the fights of feminism that we see these days. Anyways, let's leave that for our guests to analyze. All right, my next quote is coming from Audre Lorde, who is an American writer, womanist, radical feminist, professor, philosopher, civil rights activist, plus more. He once said, "I am not free while any woman is unfree, even when her shackles are very different from mine." That's the mentality most of us should carry every day. My next quote is coming from Malala Yousafzai, who is a Pakistan female education activist. She once said, "I raise up my voice, not so that I can shout, but so that those without a voice can be heard. We cannot all succeed when half of us are held back." Absolutely spot on. Next quote from Megan Thee Stallion, who is an American rapper, once said, "Wouldn't it be nice if black girls weren't inundated with negative, sexiest comments about black women if they were told instead of the many important things that we've achieved? Black women too often in the shadows of such accomplishments actually power the civil rights movement." Wow, that's deep. My last quote is coming from Madeleine Albright, who is an American diplomat and political scientist. Once said, "It took me quite a long time to develop a voice, and now that I have it, I am not going to be silent." Wow, don't you just love this quote? Now let's see how this quote relates to what we will be discussing tonight. Very warm greetings and welcome to The Conversation. We're reaching you from Kaftan's television studio here, the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Annabelle Oji. Now, the Sustainable Development Goals were a step forward for girls. The adoption of a standalone goal on gender equality, that's Goal 5, was a major landmark, an indicator of the international community's commitment to ensuring that women and girls have equal opportunities by 2030. But then, do the SDGs, are they enough, and are they just paperworks? Are they actually protecting the right of the girls, like we've always asked, especially here in Nigeria? And like I said, are they just paperworks, or are we really majoring on the major things and minoring on the minor things? That's a question you should ask yourself. Now, girls are one of the largest excluded groups, carrying a double burden of gender and age-based discrimination. They are disadvantaged in education, work, health, family life, and can experience multiple and intersecting forms of discrimination from poverty, ethnicity, disability, does more. The subjugation of women's rights, interests, benefits, and empowerment is a key issue facing productivity and development, especially in Nigeria. When women have opportunities, a country's economic productivity and development is enhanced across board. Therefore, Nigeria's leader would do very well to pay attention to these 5 areas of concern, which are education for girls, gender-based violence, representation of women in politics, maternal health, and women's economic empowerment. So now that's what we'll be discussing today. So now let's have this conversation with my guest, Esesua Adeyemi, who is the Director, Business Development Core Academy. We'll have this conversation with her after this time out. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Conversation. Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is The Conversation. We're reaching you from Kaftan's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. Now let's go straight to a conversation for tonight. And my guest is Esesua Adeyemi. She is the Director, Business Development Core Academy. It's great to have you on the show today, ma'am.
I'm happy to be here, Annabelle.
Great. All right, now let's go straight to our conversation for today. But then let's start with feminism. Does advocacy for the rights of girls, does it necessarily mean feminism? Let me rephrase.
Yeah.
What is feminism?
What is feminism? Okay, so Annabelle, that is an awesome question. I think that's actually a topic on its own, feminism.
Yes.
Why? You know why I'm saying that? So I have a 17-year-old daughter who is living in a world where people are confusing what feminism is. Now, I just want to say feminism in just using one word. So feminism is not equality, but equity.
Equity. Oh, really?
So some people make the mistake of thinking that feminism is equality.
As even some people think it's the both of them, equality and equity.
Some people put both of them together, but majority of the people who are kind of like abusing the word feminism believe in equality and not understanding that it's not actually equality, but equity.
Okay.
And what is equity? Just being just and what? Fair. Now, I have 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. My 2 boys are before my daughter. And so I was used to raising boys. Now, I was raised as a boy. It's a very long, funny story, but I was raised as a boy. Now, the reason my dad raised me as a boy, it was until when I got, I think, into university. One day, he told me to go to the mechanics workshop, and I was like, hey, but I have a younger brother who's just 2 years younger than me. Why do I have to be the one to go to And he was like, you know why you have to go to the mechanics workshop? So by the time you're independent and you're on your own, no man will call your bluff when it's time to take your car to the mechanics. But you know, at that time as a child, I didn't understand what my dad was teaching me. He wasn't teaching me equality. He was teaching me equity.
Equity, okay.
Equity in the sense that, you know what, it is only just and fair that as a girl, I should understand the mechanical issues of my car.
And maybe at least start from knowing how to fix your
Do you understand? So for instance, in the morning when I get up, I should be able to check the oil gauge. I should be able to check if the water is. I should be able to check, okay, is there any spill somewhere? Okay, is there any wire cut? Okay, I should be able to read the dashboard. Reading the dashboard, Annabelle, you and I as a lady or as a man, there's no equality there. There's equity. It's just giving us the knowledge to understand that we need to. Now, there is no way you would put a 50 kg bag of rice. And if I'm not a weightlifter as a lady, you would expect a guy who is used to doing a lot of activities. I may not be able to carry, so I'm not equal to him in that space. But you can now not say that because we're both in weightlifting as a sport, you will now tell me that because I'm a woman, you'll pay me less.
Okay.
When I am carrying the same amount of weight that my own body type, do you understand, can carry. So that's why I'm always of the opinion and always trying as much as possible to tell young ladies that it's equity and not equality. A woman can never be equal to a man. It may sound annoying, or especially to those who are, you know, really passionate about feminism in that order. But let's call a spade a spade. The build of a man is not the same as the build of a woman.
That's definitely.
And that's why if you notice some women who try to get into really tough male sports, their body structure changes because they have to have certain type of muscles, that would help them. So does that let us know that you get? So I would always say, for me, feminism is equity, just trying as much as possible to ensure that the woman is treated in a just manner and is treated in a fair manner once she has the capacity and the capabilities to do the same thing that a man is doing. So don't say because I'm a woman you pay me less, and me and the same man are in the same, do you understand, position. No. Okay,
so now those people who does talk about feminism and then say that it has to do with marriage and then the rights of the woman and then the rights of the man, you just hear so many things about it. Are they going to the extreme?
So I'm super excited that as your guest, I kind of like wear so many hats. When I say wear so many hats, I wear the hat of a mother, I wear the hat of once a wife, so I'm widowed. Okay. Now, I don't talk about being widowed because I feel that that's one thing people use also to cower the woman. So once she's a widow, oh, she's a widow, oh, yeah, widow, oh, sit down in that corner, oh, so I don't do that. So you don't ever see it on my face. I was married for 18 years, Annabelle, and in the 18 years of marriage, I learned over the course of the 18 years. And you know where you see where they say a woman should be submissive? And most times people are angry.
And that submissive is...
people are upset. People are... But I can tell you that in the 18 years of my marriage, submission worked.
Okay.
Now, let me tell you how it worked. It didn't work because I was a fool. It just worked because at that point in time, I just told myself, I need peace.
Ah, great.
Do you understand?
Okay.
And if I need peace in my home, what would it entail for there to be that peace? Okay, my husband says, I remember then, to tell you how much submissive I was. He wasn't one who wanted me to have a 9-to-5 regular job. So I guess that must have been his own insecurities, and all of that. But it was with time. I got married at 23, so I was very young. And he was 9 years older. So there was so much that I didn't understand until I think I got to about 40. And I was like, oh my gosh. But again, it was a journey. And at one point, I just realized that, for peace to reign, he doesn't want me to have the regular 9-to-5 job. He hasn't come out categorically to say it, but every time he's always twatting things that just don't make me get the jobs. And I'm like, you know what? Okay, for peace to reign, right? What would allow peace reign in my home? Get a job that he feels I'm at home, right? So what did I do? I started working with children.
Okay.
You get, so I started having a homework center. Now, in his mind, I was always at home.
And then he would say, my wife is submissive there.
But I was submissive.
Yes, you were.
So it wasn't even about the submission part. It was about the fact that I was always, that's what he wanted, right? For me to be at home, right? For me to be around the children. But I did it making money. I did it earning grants. I did it getting, so for instance, there were so many grants our business won. For me, just starting up a homework center that turned to an early years. But at that point in time, he felt he had won. Was there peace in my home? Yes. But imagine if I kept on going, what do you mean by that? I had to be a working class woman. But you know what I always tell the men? Because remember I told you I have 2 boys and my girl, so I have 3 kids. And that's how I've been able to teach my sons. So I teach my sons this. For a woman to be totally submissive to you, right? I'm Christian and I'm very spiritual, but not religious. 2 different things. Now, the reason why I try to be very spiritual and not religious, because religion also has had a way it's played in messing up with the woman's mind, especially the female gender's mind, Now, for God to have said the woman should be submissive, that wasn't the first thing he said. He talks about the man.
Love.
He told the man to love the woman the way Christ loved the church. That he gave his own life up for the church. Annabelle, there is no woman who would have a man that will let her know that he can sacrifice his own life for her, and she will not be. She will lick the floor he walks on.
I agree.
Do you get? But when you don't have that kind of man, and as a woman, you genuinely want peace in your home, it's God's law. It's God's rule. God is not stupid. He doesn't just wake up and just say, do you understand things? He's thought it through. And that's why I gave the example of being in a relationship where it's not like he showed me that love of saying, I want you to go ahead and do what you want to do career-wise. But when I realized that, man, he's the head of my home. Will this thing bring peace? I can assure you that the day we got a grant, that was the pioneer inaugural You Win Women Award.
Okay.
He actually did a Thanksgiving and did cards. So he was one person who would always blow my trumpet. My wife is, but when I sit back sometimes I look at him, I used to laugh then, as in the guy.
Remember when
you
right.
the back of his mind, it was like she's working with children, so she's not out
there.
So that's where it comes back to the table when we're talking about feminism. Have the conversations. Okay, you, Mr. Man, what is the thing that's aggravating you? Why don't you want me to succeed as a woman? Why don't you want me as your wife to do A, B, C, D? Annabelle, a lot of men go through a lot of things that unfortunately our society does not allow them to talk about it. And so they grow into that mindset of believing that a woman should be in the kitchen, a woman should be this. But if you don't have those conversations before you even get married, which is a mistake a lot of girls make. Thank God the title of this show is The Conversation. And it just lets you know that the conversation always has to take place. You have to have the conversation. What kind of man are you? What kind of upbringing did you have?
But then some people will come back to tell you that talk is cheap. We talked about it before we got married. And then when we got married, I don't know what happened. He changed.
You see the signs. They didn't talk about it.
Ah.
You know why I'm saying they didn't talk about it? When you talk about something. So let me tell you one thing I do okay, now it's been 7 years. So I'm now open to dating now. And one of the things I do is when someone is talking to me, they're always like, Esesua, I notice you don't ask questions. And I tell them that I don't ask questions because you can give me any answer. So that kind of like relates to what you're saying, talk is cheap. But Annabelle, I can tell you that actions will let you know. I'll give you a typical example. So you're asking a man, would you protect me in the light of danger? And he says yes. And let's assume you go into a store and you're with your sibling, and your sibling does something, and the store manager is coming to you, and the gentleman just is trying to find his way out of the store. Doesn't that tell you that he will not protect you? But if you had asked him, he would have told you that I'll protect you in my life. So, yeah, talk may be cheap, but you see actions. That's why you hear this phrase when they say actions speak what? Louder than words. Women need to be more patient, and they need to be more emotionally intelligent to be able to just carry those emotions and give the emotions some certain level of intelligence where I'm upset right now and I'm angry right now, but you know what? I'm smiling. And as I'm smiling, you don't know that I'm angry, but inside I'm angry, but as I'm smiling, I'm calming myself down to be able to read the situation. So for me, I feel the conversation has to be had. Even if he tells you I can do it, he's told you can do it, then look at scenarios where has he done it. And where he does not do it, you go back and say, but based on the conversation we had, you said you would do, but you see you did not. So people have conversations, but they don't look. Some people even see those red flags, like people call them, and they don't actually even see them as red flags. They be like, he will change.
He will change.
Nobody changes unless they want to change.
Most definitely agree. All right, now let's move a little bit and talk about some other things. Now we know that the SDG goals were a step forward to for girls. The adoption of the standalone goal on gender equality, that's the goal 5 of the SDG goals, was a major landmark an indicator of the international community's commitment to ensuring that women and girls have equal opportunities in 2030. But then we're looking 2030. We're already in 2023.
7 years to go.
Just less than 8 years, 7 years to go. But are we there yet with regards to gender equality? Even, or are all of this, are they just works and papers, and they were not majoring on the major things and minoring on the minor things?
So what I would say now with this is governments, countries, organizations can come up with policies, but you know that the primary people that make these policies happen is the family.
Okay.
So the government may come and say gender equality, and you can hear the word equality because, for instance, they're assuming if you're in a classroom, there are 50 children, at least you should have 25. If you don't have 25, maybe 26 boys, 24 girls, or 6 girls, 24 boys. But at least there should be that. But you find out that even within the parents, the first thing you're hearing a mother telling her own daughter is, don't go and have all the book in your head, though. Because by the time a man is looking at you, he will say you are too intelligent for him. you better go to the kitchen and go and learn how to cook, because at one point in time you're going to get married and you're going to be the one cooking the food in the kitchen. It starts from the home.
Okay.
I raised and I'm still raising my 2 sons to understand that you need to respect the girl. Now, the blessing we have in our home is that they're older than their sister. So you might say naturally they want to protect her. But let me tell you one thing that happened one day in the house. So there was a particular day I called out my daughter and I was like, oh, once you're on holiday, you just be in the room sleeping. So I'm in the kitchen now. And then her elder brother, that's my second born, now says, Mama, don't use words like that.
Ooh. Okay.
Now, the reason why I was even saying that was more of like they had gone into university and she's with me every day. So I felt you are the one that these guys are the ones on holiday. And he goes, Mama, don't say that. Don't do that. There are 3 of us in the house. Why are you calling her? And then if you're even going to call her to come to the kitchen to help you, why are you using a phrase like you're the girl or you're the... Don't do that. It's wrong. Why don't you just say... Oh, call her by her name and say, I need you to come here to learn this for you. Whether she's learning it because she's a girl. So what happens to me? What happens to my brother? And you will not believe, Annabelle, from that day, it became ground rule.
Awesome.
We started taking turns. So if it was a Monday would be child 1. If it was Tuesday, it would be... Do you know, it was so exciting to see that my first son really is not a kitchen person. So sometimes he won't even buy his way out. So you say, you know what, guys, maybe I'll just pay for takeout, not in this kitchen, And then that's when you now hear his own brother saying, hey, times are changing. You may get married to a girl who does not like the kitchen. So you see why I'm saying that it starts from home.
So it's not even a criteria to say that I'm going to get married to her because she can cook.
No, because is that her job role?
Okay.
I don't know if you get where I'm coming from. If she decides to be a housewife, then it's a job role.
Okay.
Because she's a housewife. She's at home. But Annabelle, someone who is working a 9 to 5 and needs to leave the house very early, maybe before 8 o'clock, you're expecting her to maybe make breakfast, you're expecting her to be back to ensure that there's lunch, or if there's no lunch, there's dinner, and both of us are doing the same thing. In some instances, a lot of women are even in higher paying jobs or more stressful jobs than even their spouses. And then you're saying because she's a woman, she should come back home to cook. That is the job role for a housewife. But it doesn't mean that the working class woman will not cook. She will cook as well. But you need to be able to understand that she will cook based on how her own strengths also can take her. You see some men, they'll tell you, I can't eat food that was not cooked today. But now, if a woman has been able to say, I work Monday to Friday, and then she says, okay, Friday, I'm blessed to be in an office where I close at 12. So what that means is at 1 o'clock, I can go to the market and then buy all my stuff. And then Saturday, Sunday, I cook. Most times, it's even the women that do the school runs. And then I cook Saturdays, Sundays, I label everything. The man should be understanding enough to be able to say, she's done that. But you find out that there's some men that would say, I wouldn't eat food in the freezer.
It has to be fresh.
It has to be fresh. But she's working. Now, the same way we're talking about equity, equality, however anybody wants to talk about feminism, is the way the young men nowadays are saying, you know what, I go out, you pay for your bills. So if you're saying she should pay for the bills the same way you're paying for bills as well, then why can't we just both sit down and say, you know what, I get tired sometimes. It won't be bad if you actually go to the kitchen to just razzle up something for us to eat. I don't really think, you see, there are a lot of job roles that became the woman's role because as at that time, women, especially if you go to the old days of when, the Christian life became or even Muslim life became, women were more at home. They were not as enlightened as we are now. They were not going to work. They were the men most of the times would want to go and hunt, and then they come back and bring it back. So that woman had all the time. She was even so excited to have her husband come home and prepare that meal.
So do you think that's the reason why some people will say that? That's most of the reason why those marriages of those days even last longer than what you have now?
Yes, I would say so. And let me tell you why I would say so. So my grandmother was married for about maybe I think 20 years. Why I'm saying that 20 years now is because in those 20 years she had 10 children, and before she was 30 her husband passed. Okay. And my grandmother, when I met her after I now became widowed, and the first time she was going to see me, she was like, Esesua, I would not tell you not to get married again, because I'm not in your situation. But I never got married again. And she tells me why. And I'm like, why, Mama? Why didn't you get married again? And she says, because God gave her the best husband ever. And so Mama is 98 years now. She's still alive. And that's 68 years later. Mama never married any other person.
Oh, wow.
She never even looked at another man. Why? Because my late grandfather was a man. He understood his responsibilities as a man. He understood how to love Mama. He understood how to take care of Mama. It was so bad that Mama did not even know what the market looked like.
Oh, wow.
So one particular day he travels for business and he got stuck, and he didn't get back on time to restock the house, so she had to go. But before he left, he had given her instructions: when you get to the market, go to this side, this is who you will meet. And they didn't know that she understood the language they were speaking, and then they were speaking in their language, and like, oh my gosh, no wonder this man doesn't allow this woman come out, because she's so beautiful, look at her skin, but they didn't just understand that my late grandfather then was just a man who followed God's word of
loving his wife.
So there was nothing Mama would not do for him. And most of the men in those days, even if they didn't even love, there was that sense of responsibility. You're the man. You need to go and hunt. You need to go and... But if you notice now, you see some men, they don't even see it as anything that they don't have a job. As far back as even my own dad's period, you can't be a man sitting down in the house. How? When we're working. But now, Annabelle, you see some men that are grown. Then if you were like 20, 26, 27, you're out of your father's house now. In those days, yes, people might say the economy there maybe is better than now, but there are still some 26-year-old boys who tell themselves, or men, that I will not be in my father's house as at this age. I would build for myself. I'll fend for my... So I think, like I said, for these policies to materialize, we have to start with the home.
Okay.
So as much as we're always talking about the girl child, which is beautiful, how do we teach the boy child to understand that when you become a man, there are certain things that we've been advocating for your sister that over how many centuries has still not been. So if that boy child understands the reason, like how my sons subconsciously have understood that their sister is not an item, but she's a human being like them. Then I feel when people are now in government, they will be able to now say, oh, I also have a sister. I would also have a daughter someday. If these policies exist, I need to ensure that we do them. When they're having conversations with their fellow male friends, like I told you my father did with my own kids, where he would say, go to the mechanic. It's not because you're a girl you will not go to the mechanic. Annabelle, I still change light bulbs. It's been 7 years my late husband passed. I've never called a man to come to my house, maybe change my light bulb, do you understand? Or come and find out why my car is not starting. You know how maybe I'll be like, oh my god, damn son. No, because it felt a little bit too much then. I remember, especially when I was learning to be submissive towards my husband, I used to feel like, why did my dad teach me to be, but I don't regret it. And I wish so many men would teach their daughters to know that there is no male rule, there is no female rule.
So at what point is this teaching supposed to happen? At what age?
From when children start to speak. So for instance, you don't start telling a child, oh, Shegun, because you are the boy, go and carry out the trash.
Great.
Yetunde, if she's maybe 2 years younger than him, so for instance, Shegun is 7, Yetunde is 5. You think they should carry part of the trash that is that her own body can carry? Because if Yetunde is alone at home, we should not carry out her trash. Shagun, you go and close the door. Or Abdul, go and close the door because you are the man. You should learn security. How I just go to the kitchen and go and be plucking the leaves of your mom? No, how I go and close the door, because as a lady, you need to know that your security is important. So from the moment they're able to speak and you're able to tell them to do things, they should be able to know that all rules are both rules. The only difference is if I'm going to tell the boy to carry the trash, it has to be, oh, okay, please do not be upset. I feel you're stronger than, that's why I'm asking you to carry this bigger one. But not because he's a boy, you should carry the trash. And then the girl, or not because he's a boy, you say, okay, you know what, don't go to the kitchen. The kitchen is not meant for boys. No.
All right, now let's talk about child marriage. Now we've seen how much, both for education, we've seen, especially in some, I don't want to call the name, but some part of the country, they just don't believe in educating the girl child. And then some people will tell you that, like you said, too much education. After all, at the end of the day, you're just going to get married to one man, and then everything would end up in the other room or in the kitchen and all. And then this menacing child marriage. I don't know if you've seen that interview that was done by a former governor, where he was justifying why he married a child. And these things still happen, and yet we still keep advocating for it. So what else are we supposed to do at this point, especially when you know that there is a thin line between their religion or their tribe? What these two things accept? Okay,
so first and foremost, the part where you said it talked about me saying that was an example that some mothers do. I'm an advocate of girl children going to school, whether girl, whether boy. I'm still learning, as you see me as I am like this. I will never be one to say, oh, as a woman, you're learning too much. No, because I'm still learning. So I have a project management certification. I'm a chartered accountant. I have a certificate in entrepreneurial management. Any skill that is coming up that will make me make money, Annabelle, I am still learning. And I promised myself that as a woman, I will continue to learn for as long as my brain is allowing me. So I would always fight for women learning, because knowledge is power. That's the truth. Now, for this part of the world, until we start to understand that there's a difference between religion and spirituality, if you remember, that's how I started talking about my own faith. We would always still be in this murk. Why am I saying that? You have religious bigots, you have religious fanatics, you have who is when it suits them. They know how to quote certain things to suit them. Now, from time immemorial, a woman kind of like always married young. Whether it was Christian, whether it was Muslim, but you know, like I said, by the time people get to a certain level, and I think even in both religions, the women have fought really hard. I must commend the women in both religions, because there are some women who would say, hey, my daughter is not going to get married till she's done with her first degree. And the woman will put her foot down, and she'll tell the father of the child, if this man so loves her, he should wait. And if the man even insists and says, okay, but we must marry that marriage, the mother will put her foot down and say she will marry him, but she'll go to school. So you see, Annabelle, like I said, it still comes back to the family. It still comes back to training our children so that when they become fathers and when they become mothers, they start to understand the importance of why should a child be educated. Now, if I know that the different shades of green, for instance, does that mean I will not be submissive? It just means that I will not be fooled. Because if I go to the market to want to buy material, for instance, because I know the different shades of green, if I go into the market and I say, I would like to have green lace, and someone brings me maybe turquoise and says it's green, I may not be really upset, because I know that turquoise is kind of like a shade of green. Do you understand? Someone brings teal, I will not be upset.
Emerald.
But if I don't have the education that there are different shades to green, but when I get to the market and the person is bringing green to me, I'll be upset. Green is green. Green should be as green as the leaves. So we need to start telling our colleagues, our friends. So now we've noticed that it's a cultural and religious. So what that means is that our religious leaders need to start putting it in their preaching, that when a girl learns, it doesn't mean she'll be disrespectful. It just means that you're protecting her as well. So look at the market scenario we've used now, where because she's educated in colors, they will not cheat her. Or she will not go to the market and be fighting where she does not need to fight. Education will always be an integral part of anybody's being. And I tell people one thing: education is not only about even saying I'm going to the four walls
of school.
I'll still go back to my grandmother. My grandmother stopped schooling at, I think it was secondary, but she never stopped learning. She would listen to the radio. At 98, when this woman still speaks, if you listen to her spoken English, even you too, you'd be like, mama, as in like, but that was because she had it in her to want to continue to learn. Now, there's this scientific research that has been found that the intelligence level of a mother is what determines how intelligent the children will be.
Okay.
So if men are beginning to understand that if you marry an intelligent wife, your children, one way or the other, will have some level of intelligence. I don't know if you've watched the or read about the Ben Carson story. That's that neurosurgeon in America. His mom she didn't know how to read, but she was intelligent. So people forget that there's a difference between being literate and having that intelligence that God has given naturally. She didn't know how to read, but she was intelligent.
All right.
You know, and it was that intelligence that she used to raise her kids. They didn't have a clue that their mother did not go to school, or maybe went to school and stopped, but couldn't, put things. But she was smart, street smart. She understood that if you do things this way, if you do it that way, but she just did not know how to apply because she could not read or write. So reading and writing doesn't mean, and I think we need to put out more programs to let people understand that if a girl learns to read or write, it doesn't mean she'll be disrespectful.
That's definitely.
It does not mean that she will now start carrying her. No, it just means that as a man, you're protecting your own family. Who does the homework most of the time? It's the woman.
All right, clearly we have so much more to learn from Esesua Adeyemi, and we will kickstart with that after this timeout. Join us again.
For this part of the world, until we start to understand that there's a difference between religion and spirituality. If you remember, that's how I started talking about my own faith. We would always still be in this murk. Why am I saying that? You have religious bigots, you have religious fanatics, you have who is when it suits them. They know how to quote certain things to suit them. Now, from time immemorial, a woman kind of like always married young. Whether I was Christian, whether I was Muslim, but like I said, by the time people get to a certain level, and I think even in both religions, the women have fought really hard. I must commend the women in both religions, because there are some women who would say, hey, my daughter is not going to get married till she's done with her first degree. And the woman will put her foot down and she'll tell the father of the child, if this man so loves her, he should wait. And if the man even insists and says, okay, but we must marry that marriage, the mother will put her foot down and say she will marry him, but she will go to school. So you see, Annabelle, like I said, it still comes back to the family. It still comes back to training our children so that when they become fathers and when they become mothers, they start to understand the importance of why should a child be educated.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is The Conversation. We are reaching you from Kaftan's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. If you just joined us, you've actually missed out on the whole lot, but then you can still join in the conversation. As my guest of the show tonight is Esesua Adeyemi, who is the director of Business Development Core Academy. All right, before we went on that break, we've actually poured out a whole lot. But then now let's talk about still on child marriage.
Yeah.
I had an argument with someone, and then he says that why do people keep arguing about child marriage? That if she decides that she wants to marry at that age without education, then no one has the right to stop her. And that's what he said. And then he also came out to say that after all, no one disturbs a girl that decides to prostitute at a tender age. So why make a fuss about child marriage? So how do we begin to read ourselves from such mentality?
It's really sad that someone will say that and he's someday going to be a father or is already a father. What does a 12-year-old girl know? What does a 14-year-old girl know? Annabelle, I got married at 23. What did I even know at 23?
23.
What did I know? When we had this conversation, what was I telling you? I told you that because I married so early, there were so many things I did not know. That's 23. And you're now saying that what does a 12-year-old girl know? That she will tell you that I want to get married. She might say that because of the fact that her hormones are, coming up, and things like that. And she just loves the idea of, I would want some Prince Charming to, but she doesn't know beyond fairy tale.
Fairy tale.
Do you understand? That's fairy tale. At the end of the day, this man who is marrying this 12-year-old girl who is saying, oh, I want to get married, he wants to have a conversation. I just love that word conversation because everything is just a conversation. He wants to have a conversation with his wife. Can he have a conversation with her? He has a very tough day at work. He comes back home. He's trying to tell her how some policy has, and she's looking at him and she's like, sorry, okay. Policy, what did you just say? Do you get? It's beyond her body. Her mind. What does a 12-year-old know? What does a 14-year-old know? Even an 8, you see, I probably mentioned my own age, so you can know that any girl from 23 years old below, at that period, that girl is trying to understand herself. So
are you saying that even at this age, even 23 is still young, too young?
I know, but can I be honest with you? If at 23, the 23-year-old girl has not been able to be done with school. Now, I was blessed that by 23 years old, I think I was in final year when I met him. So I got married during NYSC. So I had finished my education. I was serving. But Annabelle, I had not found me. I didn't know who I was. Forget the fact that I'd even gone to school. I wanted to be chartered. I still had, left to me, I wanted to be on Wall Street. But at 23, NYSC, I got married. Let's be honest now, what Wall Street would I have wanted to be on again? Because my life kind of like just all changed from still being a child. I was still a child in my own parents' home now. I hadn't even had the opportunity to even understand what it felt like to even stay alone. This morning I was going through my devotional, and my devotional coincidentally was talking about how to keep your relationships. And it was talking about marriage, and he said, so when people, before they got married, what were those things that happened before they got married, how they were so lovey-dovey, loved themselves, blah, 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 blah. And then after a while into the marriage, sometimes people get bored. And so when they get bored, that's what will now make someone maybe going to pornography or going to this, or going to that. But that when you have something that you can both discuss. Now, what they've said about both discussing is that you individually, right, you have to have what is your own interest. What is something that you love. So if I don't have something that I love, and let's assume me and you are roommates, and I come home, what do you want to discuss with me? Or if you don't have something of interest. And one of the things that the devotional advice that people should do, especially married couples, is find yourself first of all before you even go into that marriage. Know you. Have your own clique of friends. Have your own thing. So your life is not all about this person. So imagine taking a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old, 16-year-old, 18-year-old out of that space where she's supposed to build relationships, and you now put her at home. She doesn't have anything. All she just has is that man. And so the day he comes home angry, that's the end for her. The day he comes home happy, she's happy, he's happy. But can she contribute? So I wish he were here to try and explain to us what level of maturity at that point where the man is not happy with work. How does that 12-year-old girl, wife, calm him down? All that is in that person's head is just the other room. And even at 12, 14...
The other room or food.
Or food. Even at 12 years, 14, 16 years, is she even yet matured enough to even be in that other room? Yes, I know in those days, it was the norm. Because at that point, what were they doing now? Like I said, they weren't doing anything. So by the time a girl gets to about 12, 14 years old, she becomes more of a burden at home, because there's so many mouths to. If you notice, then what they would do is they would marry her off to somebody who they felt was more wealthy than they were, so that the bridal price that will come to them can. Annabelle, things have changed now.
Things and times have changed.
They've changed.
All right, now let's move and talk about sex slavery or rape or sex trafficking, especially in IDP camps. This menace has been there over time, but no one wants to talk about it. We keep hearing of where you have big vehicles come to get girls in IDP. How do we stop that particular habit? Whenever I think about it, it just
chills. As you're even telling me now, my body is just going on like how. But you see, you know how they say it's only the person that wants to be helped that can be helped. unfortunately, the crop of girls that we also have are not making things easier for even the female gender. So you see girls who just genuinely feel that because I have my body will give me money, I'll use it. So when you're even, I've seen instances where someone would tell you that, so that girl that dated this guy that dumped her, but she slept with him, dated the other guy, dumped her, but she slept with him. Am I not better off than her that is making money?
It's my own body.
That it's not the same thing. She slept maybe 3 different men, Abby. Did they give her 1 naira?
Me, I'm making money.
So it's I wouldn't want to now start blaming the men and say, oh, the man too that is even going, you get. But it's also the way the girls of nowadays see life and think that. So most ladies now chase shadows than substance. So when I say shadows rather than the substance is, oh my God, the girl next door is wearing bone straight that is like 300, 400, 500,000. Is she better than me that I cannot have bone straight on my head, sorry. And then she can't afford it because she's not working. So she asks herself, what's the easiest way to? And they're like, for those, like for instance, you're saying in the IDP camp now, she's saying herself, you know what, I would love to have nice clothes. As some men normally used to come now, maybe to sleep with. But
some of them are vulnerable though, and then they're being sent by their housekeepers or what the administrators in that camp. So
you think now, if it's a case that it's a ring, we know that okay, it's even the people that are taking care of them that are. Then, for me, I would feel that the NGOs. So you know there's so many NGOs. Sometimes you begin to ask yourself, do they really do? Because you can't tell me that a lot of these NGOs have not gotten wind of this. What are they doing? Because now we're now taking away from the fact that it's the girls that even want to do it. Now we're even saying that it's the administrators of the IDPs that are actually trafficking these girls. So the NGOs that have been set up to say, you know what, we want to protect the girl child, what are they also doing? Why can't they also just pretend and do like they want to solicit for? Do you understand? And now those people in the act.
All right, so because you talked about some girls who would actually want to do it because they want to live the life, the social media kind of life. Yeah. Now, I'm going to ask you 2 questions and I'd like you to unbundle them in one breath.
Oh, that's fine.
They keep saying that women, we don't like each other. We're always slut shaming, body shaming other women. Do you still agree with that mentality or with that postulation? Because I keep hearing people say that. And then secondly, you just keep hearing people say that just because she attained that height in her career, or she just got a new car, or she just got a new house, it means that she has slept with 1 million men around. So how do we read ourselves from that, especially because you see even women even to go do these things to other women? So do we still live in that mentality of women hate the other, a woman hate her other woman?
So I would say, Annabelle, that hate may be a little bit
okay.
maybe
extreme, right?
Okay. So what I would say might just be more of envy. So remember at the beginning, just somewhere within the conversation, I mentioned emotional intelligence. Women were very emotional beings, very, 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 very emotional beings, and we just allow our emotions just go run wild. But you see, a woman who doesn't have it here, when I mean have it here in terms of having a degree or certification, or just having the creative mind to be able to churn out business ideas to make money, the next thing she falls on is what? Her body. So have you noticed how it's always been in an African thing of a woman with a big bum exciting a man, right? But have you noticed how recently men are very particular about women with bums, and they're always going, oh, nice bum, oh, nice this, and you find out that it's even my fellow woman that would be the one wanting her bum. So maybe where we're going to is not a place that's appropriate for you to actually come to really be dressed like that, for the bum to be all out. But because she knows that she doesn't have maybe the qualifications school-wise, or she's not really smart up there, and she knows that the bum will attract the man, she comes and she flaunts it in his face. And once she does it, she knows that once I'm doing it, he's not going to look at the other girl, he's going to look at me. But you see, I always tell people this thing, as a lady, once you know what you have up here, the body is just additional. Because at the end of the day, that man will leave that bomb 1 and run for bomb 2. Because when the chips are down, he still wants to have a decent conversation with somebody who has brains. When his workload is all in his head and everything is all jamming him, and he still wants to come back home to talk to a lady who is not thinking about how she's saving money to maybe increase the bomb or to, do you understand? So yes, women still do things towards their fellow woman to kind of like put her down, like I said, when they themselves are insecure. So for instance, now you will not see somebody who they told you has a PhD in something, or who is a biochemist or biotechnology person in an IT firm earning maybe like $20-something million a month, Annabelle, being bothered about whether somebody is wearing Bone Street. Do you get? That's not where she's going. Is okay, so in this new science that we're doing right now, what is the new thing I have to learn? What is the new skill I need to do? And so for me, I feel that we'll still have to go back to the NGOs that are always saying they're propagating for girl child. Make education interesting. Make capacity building fun. Make the girl child understand that, you see, once your brain is, you can earn. I saw a job interview, job application someone sent to me yesterday, and the salary for that job was $400,000 a year here in Nigeria. And I was like, by the time I multiplied it by, that was almost like going to be like 300 and something million naira, so 30 something million a month. Of course, what's the next thing for me to do is not to apply. So I clicked on apply, but you know what? By the time I was about to apply, I now started seeing certain skills I did not have. Okay. So I was seeing AI, something code, what, lang, this, that, and I'm like, okay. Esesua, what this means is that there's another whole new level of education you need to learn. I need to school myself in. You get, and I'm like, oh, no wonder you're seeing organizations coming up talking about STEM, which is, science, technology, I think it's engineering and mathematics, where they're trying to. So we need more organizations that are letting ladies understand that these things are using the word sexy, because since women, like I said, like to be like, that's
the new sexy.
Do you understand? Let women be able to understand that it is sexy to work in tech. It is sexy to understand artificial intelligence coding language. It is, because Annabelle, I felt wounded, I felt betrayed.
I can imagine
that I could not apply for a 39 million naira a month job. How many Bone Streets do I want to buy? If I want to buy the whole shop, do you care? If I want to buy the whole shop, I can buy the whole shop because I have it. So the way we're going about, maybe we need to be more creative to let girls know, hey, we're not telling you don't have to be fine. You need to be fine. They say you're dressed the way you dress, so you need to look good. Your hair needs to be nice, like they would say the makeup has to be paying, this one has to be on fleek. Now, no problem. If you want everything to be a particular brand, do it, but do it knowing that you can do it. And now this now brings us to the part where you see men complaining now that everything a woman wants, she wants the man to pay for it. But if women understand that if I go to school, if I have a good job, I can afford anything I want, but that doesn't mean I should disrespect the man. There'll be more women going into things like this. But at the back of their minds, they just always feel, why should I go and stress myself? If I ask one man, he will give, but if I know that I need a skill, like I'm saying, and right now, like I said, it's a challenge for me now, because I'm actually telling myself, you know what, I may need to go start learning how to code.
All right, so even as our time is fast spent, like I said, I'll ask you two questions again, so you bring them in one breath. Now, my first question is with regards to the 35% affirmation that was promised by most administrations. Now, with what you have now, the ministerial nominations and women participation in either governance or politics, would you actually say that we are getting there in Nigeria, or it is all too much talks but no work? Now that's one on the side. And then secondly, with this unfair widowhood practices that we see in some parts of the country, and then you have, because a woman just lost her husband, she's asked to shave her hair and drink some concussions and all of that. Then you have women even standing in front and pushing that she does the same thing. But then you recall that we have the law and the social norm. The law says that we're all equal, we've got equal rights. But then the social norm says that she's a woman. She has to sit when a man is talking, or she has to sit even when her junior, even when her son is talking, she must not talk. So when you have things like this, how do you deal?
All right, this is a very interesting questions that I feel would even just be a whole conversation some other time. Now, the first one was talking about the 35% affirmation. I would say year in, year out, Nigeria is getting better.
Okay.
Whether we like it or not, one thing we don't do in this country is we never give kudos. We're always just attacking. They are not done, because maybe we've not reached the 35%. But I would say we're getting better. Now, the question we would ask ourselves, Annabelle, is how many of us women are in politics? Do you get? How many of us are in politics? For you to be nominated, you have to be seen.
You have to be.
Do you understand? And it was with this, I would confess that I've always just been non-partisan, kind of, where I just sat on the fence with the normal Nigeria, where you would just say, if I go and do, it's not as if they will answer me. It's not. But you know, as the years started going by, and as I started realizing that my kids are also adults, and I'm like, what example am I showing to my children? And I realized that I had to now start at least being more, you know, participating more. And I just found out that if we don't participate as women, we will not be seen. And that's the truth. So we need, it's not an easy right to be a politician. Even the men, some of the men within the male folk, they're even still struggling. You know, it's still a huge struggle for those who are just coming into politics newly. How much more even women that? But I would say for us, because a bracket, or should I say a number, has been put aside for us, it makes it even easier for women. So I feel that we should maybe more organizations that will teach women how to get into politics should come up, you know, and teach us. Because even for me, I would love to want to now understand proper politics and find out, you know, how do I get in? What do I do to be known? Look at, for instance, now our president, right? She was there for years.
Yes.
She was there for years. I've been in Abuja now over 22 years. In the 22 years, she was running until eventually God just blessed her. She got it this time around. So it's not a field for the faint-hearted. I remember when I talked about emotional intelligence for women. You remember I said it now. Most of us, after a while, like, oh God, I cannot. And then by the time we're hearing all the rubbish that, and maybe she has slept with, maybe she has not slept with, again, we'll now be like, so we need to really learn that if we want to be seen, we need to actually be in politics.
Okay.
So when there are more women in politics, then we can now also tell them that, did you not see this woman? Did you not see that other person? How would you say you don't have enough women to make up the 35%? But right now, I would still say, let's just say kudos. Because if you go back how many years ago before we even mentioned this, how many women, let's be honest, used to even be ministers? Then it would only be maybe the women affairs, and that one, of course, now you can't go and put a man. But if you notice now, you know, it's changing, you know. So for women, let's try and be more, let's get ourselves involved, you know, more in, you know, politics. Now, the other question you asked, which is dear to me because it was somewhere I found myself, which is, you know, widowhood. It's usually very tricky and very dicey. Why am I saying very tricky and very dicey? You can't live in a certain culture or accept a certain culture for so long, and when that culture fails you, you now say, what are they making me do? So I'll explain myself. They've been shaving women's hair, not today, not yesterday, not 1 year ago, not 2 years ago, not 10 years ago, not 20 years, not 30 years. They've been forcing women to drink substances, and like you're saying, the same women, nobody has spoken up to be saying, guys, this is not right. If women had started talking from that time, Annabelle, I'm sure it would have been something that would have faded away. But they're not talking. It's when the harm now comes. The woman is now saying, this is not a good act. But she should have known that it may have been her turn when it was somebody else's own turn. But everybody now will keep quiet because they're like,
touches you.
No. So what I would advise is for areas where those things are still happening, the women should start speaking out. It's wrong. I was just blessed to be in the FCT when it happened, and because we're in the FCT, and his own family is not a family that is more. They're not like home.
Okay.
So for me, it was a blessing.
Okay.
But let me tell you one thing I did. So he was from Yoruba, whatever, and the Yoruba culture that the woman has to be at home for 40 days.
Okay.
Now his family had said no, but you remember I told you I'm a very spiritual person. Me, I see to follow my own book. The Holy Book says, "Give unto Caesar what is Caesar, and give unto God what is God." So I asked, based on the custom, what is it? What am I supposed to do? And they said, "Oh, you are supposed to stay at home 40 days." Staying at home 40 days, will it kill me? No. But would it help me and save me from any talk? Yes. So I stayed at home. Even though the family said, "Oh, you don't have to do it," I told them, I said, "No, give unto Caesar what is Caesar, and give unto God what is God." Now, if whatever practice was going to harm me, Annabelle, I'm telling you the truth, there is no way anybody will carry me to that or do it. That's me, oh. There is nothing anybody would have told me it was going to harm me. That is me. So maybe women also have to start learning to tell them, whoever the person is, that, okay, you know what, just kill me. That's it.
Kill me.
Do you understand? Like, if people kill me than for me to do what. So I think as women, really, we need to get to that level where we know what is right. We know what is just and fair. Yes, we have so many laws in Nigeria where, just like you said, there's customary, there's the regular, normal civil law, things like that, where sometimes some laws will be, eaten into the other. But for me, I feel that law is supposed to be fair.
Fair.
It's supposed to be just.
All right.
When the man's wife dies, does he drink anything? If the man drinks, or his own hair is asked to be grown, then we can now say that law is just.
And it is fair.
And it is fair.
All right. So our time is fast spent, but if you can help us in just 1 minute, we'd like you to talk to the girls, talk to women out there, those raising children, raising boys and girls, parents, since we're talking about gender equality and empowering the girl child to always speak for herself and even advocate for herself. We'd like to get your last word in that regard.
So what I would say is, love God first, irrespective of what religion or whatever a person has decided to say is that higher being, right? Once you have the love and respect for that higher being, you will know that there is no religion on the face of this earth that has not told us to love our neighbor as ourselves. So once you love your neighbor as yourself, what that means, Annabelle, is that the man sits back and asks himself, and this is where empathy comes in.
Empathy.
He asks himself, if I were to be my daughter at 12 years old, and I'm forcing myself to get married to who I don't love, would I have been happy? If it's the mother as well, I'm a mother. When I was my child's age, when they did this thing to me, did I like it? For as long as we can learn to be empathetic persons, trust me, the world will be a better place. And another thing, again, I would want to leave us with is, like I said, everything begins in with the family unit. Mothers, fathers, let's start teaching our boys and our girls to love both genders. If you're a male, teach the male child to understand the pains the female gender goes through. If it's a female, she also has to understand the pains, because the male child goes through his own. It's just that they are not allowed to speak most of the time. But I feel by the time we start learning from the family unit to teach our male children to respect and love and build their female siblings, and you tell the female sibling to build and respect her male siblings, I feel the whole world will be a better place.
Absolutely spot on. What a fine place to actually anchor this conversation. Thank you so much, Esesua Adeyemi, Director, Business Development Core Academy. It's been a wonderful time having this talk with you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Annabelle.
Great. All right, viewers, that's where we anchor this conversation for today. I'm sure you must have been rightly educated, entertained, and informed. I will see you next time. Keep watching the conversation, because you never know who my next guest will be and what I will be speaking of next. Until I come your way again, my name is Annabelle Oji. God bless you and yours, and God bless Nigeria.